federal government to step up and not back when it comes to investing in our existing social and co-op housing, providing new affordable housing opportunities, and establishing a sustainable long-term housing strategy for Canada.
I was asked by a journalist yesterday whether I thought we'd made progress during this election on bringing city issues to the forefront. And I said yes, but that there was still more progress to be made. I would say to you that thanks to our collective advocacy, we have seen huge progress on transit, with all three of the leading parties making commitments to the establishment of permanent national transit funding for the first time in Canadian history. And if they follow through, as they must, this should represent the beginning of a time in which cities, all of us, including those that are not represented in person here today, can actually plan, knowing what funding will be available from the federal government, and then build transit that we just haven't built largely for a generation. There are similar indications of good news for other infrastructure with substantial funding on a permanent go-forward basis. Significant long-term commitments have been made by the parties which should move us away from the times in which infrastructure funding came only when there was a recession or when there was some kind of an anniversary being celebrated in the country. I am particularly pleased, given the singular size of Toronto within the family of Canadian cities, that all three parties have indicated that they will be coming forward with funding for SmartTrack, the single biggest transit project we could get done the soonest in order to connect people to jobs and relieve traffic congestion. In the remaining weeks of the election campaign, all three of the leading parties and all of the parties will take a more in-depth look than they have at housing, which is an important part of what they all acknowledge to be the most important issue in this campaign, which is the economy and jobs. I hope they will take another hard look at housing policy in the case of Toronto, and I think other cities face the same challenge in different ways. We have a huge bill for the repair of social housing that's in existence today, and we need some federal help with that. There is some indication the Liberals, for example, would allow their infrastructure money to be used for that purpose. And if all three parties could clearly state that that was something they're prepared to commit themselves to allow infrastructure money to be used for the purpose of repairing social housing, this would be a step forward.
Cities are facing an affordable housing crisis, and this is holding Canadian families back, and it's impacting Canada's economy. Mayor Tory spoke about the importance of looking at housing as an economic issue in Canada right now. It's an enormous component of Canada's GDP, and we have to see clear focus and specific commitments from the federal parties in this election if they're going to take the economy of Canada seriously going forward. We have to see commitments to affordability in housing right across the country in order to address the big gaps